Welcome to Startup Greece Talks. On this episode, I will meet Anastasios Rousis, co-founder and CEO of SMPnet. Welcome, Anastasios.
Hi, Fano. Pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about my venture.
That's great. Thanks a lot. And I believe that we're going to talk further about what you have done, about the energy sector, and of course, your next steps, more to come. So I would like to start with some very cool questions like how's the weather? I know that you are based in the UK. How's the weather there?
Well, at the moment, I have to say it's better than what it is in Greece.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the weather in London is not too bad. I think that somehow relates to what I do as well, right? There is this climate change which relates to the energy transition, and I work on that space. Unfortunately, the planet is warming up, and I've been 10 years in the UK. In the last 3-4, we've had proper summer. So you get the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're based in the UK. You come from Greece. So what are you missing from Greece?
I mean, there are many things I miss, obviously, right? Our country is a beautiful place, especially when it comes to summer. When I first came in the UK, I was not based in London. I went to Glasgow. I mean, Glasgow is on the west side of the island, which is very close to the Atlantic, and you get the point. Too windy, too rainy, So obviously, I miss the beauty of our country. Sometimes also our culture. But the good thing with Greece and London, the UK, is that we're very close, right? It's only a 3-hour flight. So every time I miss something, I just come over there. I have the flexibility to do that as well.
Absolutely. So, Greece, London, Athens, London is quite. The distance is so small. I would like to ask about your background and more about you. And if you have ever thought, like an example, if you have ever thought of being an entrepreneur, running your own startup.
Yeah. I've thought of it actually because people have asked me previously. Let me say a few things about myself. First of all, I'm an electrical engineer. I have graduated from National Technical University of Athens, always focused on power systems, the energy space. That is my core expertise. It's been now more than 15 years that I'm involved in the space. And about 10 years ago, I came to the UK to do a master's degree. I went to Glasgow, University of Strathclyde specifically. I did a wind energy systems master's, and then I started working in the industry. I was working as a consultant for several years, and then I thought I want to do something more interesting, which is why I just dropped my job. I applied to a university and I started doing research at Imperial College in London. Research around energy systems, and specifically in the area of how we operate networks across several scales. And I specifically developed optimization models to better operate networks. And that's essentially how and why I moved from Glasgow down to London, where I am currently. Now, to touch on your question, I think, to be perfectly honest, that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur without actually knowing that. And what I mean by that is I think every step I've taken in my life has followed me in starting the business without realizing that when I was doing it. I just always had this, greater vision, achieving some sort of impact, helping the world move forward. And I think the space I am in does give me this, sort of accomplishment, if you want, because, the energy space, I think, does and will somehow affect human activities on the planet for the next several decades. And I'm quite happy working on that space and trying to realize some impact for humans on the planet.
I got that you are thinking of the humanity and the impact that you could create. Why you choose to follow energy? You are on the field for more than let's say 15 years. So what made you to say I'm gonna follow that part? You are consistent on that. You are very diligent of doing things on the energy space. So
yeah.
What was the parameter that leads you to do that?
I was always amazed by, I think, physics, to be honest. I think that goes back in time when I was a student. I always liked physics, right? How things work, how we interact with the nature, what are the laws of physics, and so on and so forth. And in my space, in the specific work I do, and we still apply that in my business, physics are actually a core part. What we end up doing, obviously, we develop digital technologies, right? And quite often we hear people saying that, the job we do, a software engineer can do it. But that's not actually true. You need to be in a position to understand the physics of the energy system to be able to then convert that into software tools. And of course, we end up developing software tools, but we understand the physics before doing that. And I think I was always amazed by that. And that's why I'm in that space consistently for the last 15 years.
Okay, let's jump to the main course. What is your startup and what you're doing on SMPnet?
Excellent. Okay, so at SMPnet, we have developed Omega. Omega is a set, it's a complete framework, if you want, for optimization and real-time control of energy networks. It comprises of a set of software tools that helps network operation to become better. Let me explain that a little bit more. Traditionally, energy systems have been operated in a certain manner. So, we traditionally had a generation of the energy that we needed as customers at our, buildings, homes, offices. That energy was normally generated at what we call high levels of the system, high voltage levels of the system. And each country would normally have 3 or 4 units. For example, in Greece, we had 3 units: Megalopoli, Ptolemaida. I'm pretty sure you've heard about these coal generation plants, right? And other countries were like that. Some nuclear, some others gas peaking plants. Different types of fossil fuel generation. And now normally what you would do is you generate at the higher levels, and then through transmission and distribution, you get the energy at the end point, where is the consumer point, right? Now, this has changed the last few decades. We don't have this unidirectional flow of energy in the network. We have multi-directional flows, and that is because now generating units are installed in all levels. So you may have, I don't know, you've probably seen even in Greece, solar panels on the rooftops of homes, right? Or you get electric vehicles that can be even plugged into a home and use this energy for the needs of your home, right? Now, effectively, this creates multi-directional flows into the network, and therefore, just to give you a sense of the number of resources we have in the network, the UK had 30 years ago about 35 units generating energy and controlling energy in the network. At the moment, this number is 600,000, and it is projected to increase to 1 million assets in 2030. So you see straight away that we're talking about a massive number of assets, and someone will say, okay, how do we control this, right? That is the core aspect of what we do. We have developed software that allows all these assets to be coordinated towards making sure that, you serve the various customers, so everyone gets the energy they need, the energy they want, but also you don't harm the system. So the stability metrics of the network do remain within the statutory limits they're supposed to be working: frequency, voltage, being stable, and stuff like that.
It's something that makes me to ask, who are the customers, and what's the main problem that they care to solve?
Mm-hmm. Of course. Now, there are different streams of clients that we're serving here. These are split across 3 main categories. First of all is what we call utilities or network operators. In Greece, for example, that would be the VA. Exactly. Now, this is the biggest, if you want, market segment we are serving. But of course, the one with the longest sales cycle and with a multitude of challenges, if you want to be somehow dealt with before being able to offer a solution over there. Having that said, though, that is the sweet spot of the technology, exactly because we're talking about networks with a vast diversity of assets, a number of assets, different types of assets, even different capacities, different voltage levels. So we're talking about a very, very exciting problem to be solved. But that is not the only stream that we serve. There are smaller, if you want, market segments that would be, for example, different types of networks that we see increasing the last few years. These are, say again?
Smaller networks in the...
Yes, exactly. These are called microgrids. For example, it could be the network of an island in Greece, right? There are some key innovation projects that have been developed in Greece around this area. And this could be, again, served by our technology. And a third category is simply owners of various assets like a wind farm or a solar plant. They would need to connect into the network. They need to come with increased controllability options, and we offer these controllability options so that they can comply with relevant regulation that exists in networks before they can be connected.
Okay, what does the customer means your solution? I mean, do they save money, or do they are just comply with the rules and the whole law system?
I mean, the value proposition for our clients could really differ depending on the type of client. So, for example, for utilities, the value proposition would be the fact that by getting better controllability into the network, they have more options on how they can operate their networks. So a key theme in our space for the last at least 10, 15 years was investments into networks. So, what they're trying to do is expand their networks to be able to accommodate more renewable sources. So what they do is, they put more lines, more cables, more substations, transformers, stuff like that. Now, that is great, but they cost considerably. And at the moment, investments in networks have reached off-the-scale numbers that cannot be served anymore. And it's quite a shame that what is happening is network operators at the moment, because of bad controllability options into their networks, they underutilize their assets. So what they do is they may be operating an asset at a capacity of, let's say, 50% of the maximum they can do, simply because they don't know what sort of, they don't have good visibility over the asset. They don't know if they are stressing it too much, and because they don't want to risk it, because obviously you cannot risk losing these assets, you cannot burn these assets, obviously. They just underutilize them, which makes no sense, because, by the way, a substation may cost 100 million, may cost 10 million. So, it doesn't make sense to put a new one next to it and use that 50%, right? So we give them an option to sweat their assets, drive their assets very hard without having to worry about, burning these assets, essentially, about, risking their health, essentially. And that is very, very powerful for them, because savings, that is indirect savings, of course, can actually be millions and millions per year. Now, on smaller types of clients, as we mentioned, microgrids, these smaller networks, it could be, driving down costs. Why? Because through our technology, you can maximize utilization of your local resources, of cheap resources, through wind, through solar, without having to generate energy through a diesel generator that, of course, costs and harms the environment. So you see, depending on the client type, the value proposition is quite different. It can be savings, it can be a better utilization of local resources, for example.
You are doing great things, and the job, it's really solve issues and can make the whole energy industry much better. How do you make money out of it?
So the business model, obviously, as I mentioned, we have developed a software, right? So the business model we are adopting is quite a standard and quite simple, if you want. First of all, we need, it comprises two elements. First of all, there is a setup fee that is to load our applications into the relevant control rooms of the utilities, or generally any other network. And secondly, the most important is a licensing fee, which is, of course, on a recurring basis. And I hope you can imagine that this licensing fee differs and varies depending on, the number of functionalities, how we tap into the assets, what sort of granularity of data we get, how we give access to our clients, to our platforms, if they can extract data from our platform, and so on and so forth.
Okay, and as far as I can understand, the contracts that you sign are high. Could you name the range?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, that depends on the client type, right? Because if we're talking about utilities, we're talking about very long sales cycles, but also very long, very big applications, right? So you can imagine that our applications can go into a control room and actually operate a large geographical area, the network in a large geographical area. So we would really talk about license fees in the range of hundreds of thousands of euros up to a few millions essentially. But in smaller applications, it would be much cheaper than that because we could simply offer a control module to be attached into the a microgrid or a simple asset that needs to connect into the network. So in this case, it could be tens of thousands because of course the functionality is much simpler.
Yeah, so
And the connection, it follows a total different rule.
we are talking about big players and small players too. How big is actually the market? Because we all know that energy and green tech is something that arise the last 2 years. Everybody's talking about the energy crisis and things like that. So, how big is the market that you are targeting?
I mean, it's a good question, really. And I can only approach it, to be honest. I'm not sure if I can put a value to it. I hope you can imagine. It's definitely something really big. We're talking probably about mind-boggling, amounts. We've done a relevant exercises to estimate our market. Our market is not really the energy space. The energy space would probably amount to trillions,
Broad,
I
yeah,
would assume.
broad.
Our space is just a subset of that, which is around digitalization, automation, and control. I think it's fair to say that across, Europe, maybe also including the US, our target market would be tens of billions.
I believe that as we consume and the humankind is willing to use the whole energy in order to have progress, this market gonna grow. Do you have some metrics about that?
I mean, definitely it's growing. You see what's been happening in the last 10 years, and I don't think this will change. Our human activities on the planet converge to a model of being more and more reliant on electricity, right? We electrify everything. So, if you go 10 years back, for our heating, we would burn oil just to get ourselves like warm at home, right? Now this is changing and we're using electrified heating, air conditioners, as we call them, for example, in Greece. And that is also the case with transport, right? Again, a few years back, we were using petrol engines. Now we're going into electric vehicles. We have the likes of Tesla and all these businesses that develop electric cars. So what happens here is that we significantly increase our reliance to electricity, and therefore that can only tell us that that the energy space, which is quite a lot related but to electricity, will grow significantly.
Absolutely. So, what do you believe, and how, and where do you see your initiative in the next 5 years? I would like to
Um,
be frugal on that. I would like to see how big you think, and if you are gonna be the next Elon.
well, I mean, it's quite dangerous for me to be, to trying to compare here. But yeah, I mean, I can give you some sort of ideas of our vision if you want. I mean, we have really structured and developed the business to become big. We're not here for some sort of big, sort of quick exit, right? We have a genuine interest to help the energy space move forward. And I'm quite, sad to say that the electricity system specifically, they are not in the 21st century. The most of the systems that are used in the energy space still belong in the previous century. So we need to do something to bring them to the present essentially, and that is what we do as a business. There is this sort of big idea, big initiative in the energy space called digitalization that helps essentially the big businesses in the space to come forward, especially utilities, right, to come into the present. and our work helps them do that. So I would very much want to see in the next 5, 10, 15 years, seeing our product at larger and larger scale year on year, essentially, and operating networks in a totally automatic way, with better results, less incidents, less events like blackouts events. That in Greece, that's something very common in summers, for example. I see you laughing, so obviously you agree with that. But yeah, I would very much want the business to see the business growing considerably and helping more and more utilities across the globe. Where we are on that, I think it's fair to say that we are still quite a small business, but we're trying significantly to expand the business. And now that we have a product readily available, we have a couple of clients. We thought of, that is the right time for us to start scaling and, attack other markets, enter into other markets, and even other continents. We have recently raised investment through a venture capital fund to help us scale the business. And therefore, in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see our business going from the UK to other markets, including Spain, Italy, hopefully Greece as well. But most importantly, we're targeting the US energy space as well. When we're talking about a very large market, and it offers good opportunities, mainly because regulation favors technology like ours.
Exactly, and that's the question. So you told us about Greece, and you likely like to be in Greece, and how long does it take to acquire a customer?
Sales cycles can be very long. So we're looking from,
because
we're not an
in Greece, the numbers are maybe larger.
Yeah. We're not an internet business where you can launch an application tonight and tomorrow have 10,000 users. Unfortunately, this cannot happen in our space. A sales cycle could be from 6 months up to 18 months, could be even longer. And this doesn't, to be honest, change from country to country. It's always very long. Sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit less. But then again, quite long. Speaking about Greece, there are many different ways on how we could, if you want, establish our business over there. First of all, yes, it's about acquiring customers in Greece. And that's something we're actively trying to do. We speak with several businesses in the Greek energy space. And I hope that in the coming months, we're going to have some good deals. That's not the only way to, be active in Greece, right? So, for example, we have, even though we are headquartered here in the UK, because that's where we're established initially, we have recently started a subsidiary in Greece, and we intend to actively hire people and establish an engineering team in Greece. I personally have graduated from an engineering university in Greece, National Technical University of Athens, of course, which I believe is one of the best universities that the country has, and generally a very well-known and renowned university in Europe and across the world. And we tend to believe that Greek engineers are of the best engineers that the world has seen. So we thought, if that's the case, why not having presence in the country so that we can tap into the human resources of the country, which is why we established the subsidiary there, and we're trying to hire for various roles there.
So I believe that there will be a fight now between NWA and Imperial.
Well, both very good universities, and I have, totally different journeys in both of them. So really, no point for conflict here.
Okay, so collaboration, I think it's the best way to
yes,
to do things, and yeah, there is potential for you in Greece and establishing the subsidiary and having people here in Greece, engineers, and the same with the UK universities. You can do this like the same. So we discussed about the funding round that you got. We discussed about what you've done, but I didn't hear something about the competitors, and I would like to learn more about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. of course, I would be naive to say that we are the only answer out there that do what we do, right? There are quite a few businesses from, in different scales, small startups up to even the big names in our sector that develop relevant solutions. However, our product is quite unique in certain things I'm going to explain very soon. So just to make very clear what I mean about the various businesses. As you may know, the energy space is dominated by 5-6 very big businesses. ABB, Siemens, General Electric. I mean, these businesses have a suite of products that some of them are in our area. However, they don't tend to bother with really innovative stuff. Because of course innovation comes with increased risk, right? So normally these businesses, what they do is they leave the hard work to smaller businesses, and at the end of the tunnel, they are just there to snap them up when it makes sense. And that is something we have seen happening quite a lot in our very specific sub-segment, if you want. There are quite a few other businesses that do relevant technologies like ours, even though I don't think we compete directly. On the contrary, I would say that we come to complement the space, and that is because our technology is market shaping, if you want. Our technology helps networks operate much closer to real time. And when I say real time, we're talking millisecond control of energy assets within networks. And there's no other business that does that. One thing is for sure, though, the sector is moving towards an era that millisecond level control will be needed. It is already needed, but of course, as time passes and we integrate more and more renewables into the systems, it will be needed more and more and more. And that is exactly what we offer. So what we've done in our effort essentially to create, if you want, our blue ocean and make sure that we don't compete with others, is we have developed all these real-time control capabilities to be able to enhance the offerings of other businesses and essentially somehow position ourselves as, complementary solutions to all of these.
So it's very clear. It's very clear, and yeah, that's great. So you are doing that the last 3 years. So you have developed the technology, you have protected with patents, so you are ready. So you told me before about that you are here for the whole game, not to exit quite quick. And what's your ideal exit? Or you would like to be listed or somewhere, or maybe earlier, or never?
Right. I mean, the whole idea, the end goal is to grow the business, right? Because by growing the business, we'll be able to realize the impact we are set to achieve. And that is to change the energy space and bring it to the 21st century. Of course, the paths to do that could be, several different of them. So we're looking at, listing the business as we scale, or being acquired by one of the bigger businesses that I mentioned earlier, right? Both of them are quite, if you want, realistic and pragmatic options. I tend to believe that the most maybe realistic one is acquisition, even though, again, that's not how we started, and I wouldn't mind at all. But unfortunately, the energy space is dominated by few businesses, so that straight away says that there is, some sort of convergence toward a certain path. But again, that's not important, and it really doesn't matter. We are here for the impact, and if we can realize the impact through, being independent, then so be it. If to realize our impact, we would need to join forces with a bigger business, again, so be it. We're here for the impact, and that's the important bit here.
Who's doing the impact? Tell us more about the team.
Oh, of course, yes, absolutely. We're quite a small team at the moment, right? We're only 10 people. We hope we're going to be at least double by the end of the year. And I hope that quite a good number of that will be in Greece as well, Thano. Speaking about the team, I started the business a few years ago with my co-founder, Dimitrios Zelepis. Again, power engineer. And to be honest, in the team we have too many power engineers because what we do is on that space. And because we're developing the product all these years, all team members are actually power engineers at the moment, apart from, of course, our legal counsel, our marketeers to help us bring this to the market in a nice way and create a brand around it. But we are now getting into a period where we are trying to establish other functions of the business: commercial people, business development, sales people, and so on.
So are you looking for people? Are you hiring right now?
Yes, at the moment we are looking for more engineers, not power engineers necessarily. We are looking for platform developers, cloud and IoT engineers, and some power engineers, of course, to be based in Athens, Greece. And we are looking for some commercial functions here in London.
Great to know, because some of the viewers or listeners of this podcast could probably be interested in that. And at that time, I would like to ask you my favorite question, and is about a funny story that you have that you would like to share with us during the whole journey of your startup or before, and it's related to what you're doing now.
Funny story, eh? I mean, honestly, the journey had so many like ups and downs, if you want. It's like, the startup journey is a roller coaster, right? On a daily basis, many times a day, honestly. But a funny story. I don't have one that stands out. What I would say is that I very much enjoyed the whole journey. Even, the ups are great, but even the downs have something to teach us, right? Because what we do, help us learn deeper ourselves, to be honest. And I very much enjoyed the whole journey, but yeah, I don't have something on the top of my mind.
Okay, so even do you have any favorite quote or inspiring person that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, there is a quote that I quite like. There is a saying about startups saying that, startups run fast and break things. And I think what we do is around breaking things as well. We're trying to break into a very traditional space, a very difficult space, a very slowly moving space. And we are, running against it, trying to really, really, really change it. And I hope that at the end, we will not crash, but rather manage to change it.
Absolutely. So that's great to hear from you, and I really like our conversation. I would like to thank you and to wish you all the best, and we will be in touch.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed our chat, and I hope all the best to you and your venture, and of course the talks that you're doing as well.
Thank you, Anastasios.